Look, I know what you're thinking. How could one person possibly cause an intergalactic diplomatic incident involving animals? Well, buckle up, because my name is Mara Jenkins, and I am the proud Interstellar Diplomatic Animal Exchange Coordinator for planet Earth. And let me tell you, diplomatic is a strong word for what I do. It all started about 3 years after first contact. Humanity had just discovered we weren't alone in the universe, and instead of doing something sensible like sending mathematical equations or peaceful messages, we decided the best way to make friends was to share our wildlife. Because nothing says we come in peace like shipping a box of potentially lethal creatures to unsuspecting alien civilizations. The Zorgax Confederation was our first test subject. They were a meticulously organized species of 6-limbed bureaucrats who communicated through elaborate color-changing skin patterns and lived for precise documentation. Their initial first contact with humans had been a masterclass in administrative precision. They came with 247-page first contact protocols, color-coded communication guidelines, and enough procedural documentation to make a DMV look spontaneous. When I proposed the Interstellar Animal Diplomatic Exchange Program, their lead representative, Commissar Blix, looked like he was trying to calculate the mathematical probability of my complete mental breakdown. His skin flickered through 17 different shades of administrative confusion. "You want to send animals?" Blix's skin cycled between a pale bureaucratic beige and a deep perplexed purple. "Not just animals," I explained, leaning forward with what I can only describe as weaponized enthusiasm. "Cultural ambassadors with fur, feathers, and occasionally venomous capabilities." The Zorgax delegation exchanged looks that suggested they were simultaneously calculating risk assessments and wondering if they could file a complaint with the universe's management. Our first shipment was relatively tame. A couple of raccoons, some prairie dogs, and what I believed to be a perfectly charming collection of honey badgers. I mean, who wouldn't love a honey badger? They're adorable. Mostly. The initial report from the Zorgax research facility came back in a document that was 372 pages long. I'm not exaggerating. 372 pages detailing the systematic destruction caused by creatures that weren't even supposed to be particularly aggressive. Apparently, the raccoons had immediately reverse-engineered their containment systems, learned the Zorgax computer network protocols, and were discovered attempting to order pizza, a concept they'd gleaned from intercepted Earth transmissions. The prairie dogs had organized a complex underground tunneling network that compromised 3 research facility foundations. And the honey badgers? Well, let's just say the Zorgax had a newfound respect for the phrase "doesn't give a damn." What the Zorgax didn't understand was that these weren't just animals. These were Earth's ambassadors. Creatures that had evolved on a planet where survival meant being simultaneously cute and absolutely terrifying. Where a squirrel could go from looking like a Disney character to a small, fury-driven agent of chaos in 0.2 seconds. The most hilarious part? The Zorgax thought this was just the beginning. They had no idea what was coming. No concept of the absolute menagerie of biological chaos we were preparing to unleash upon the galaxy. Commissar Blix's final communication before our next shipment was a masterpiece of bureaucratic passive-aggressiveness. His skin had developed a permanently modeled pattern that I'm pretty sure translated to "what have we gotten ourselves into?" Little did they know we were just getting started. And by we, I mean me, the animals, and the unsuspecting galactic community about to receive the most unexpected diplomatic mission in interstellar history. Welcome to Earth's version of First Contact. May the universe have mercy on their souls. Our next round of diplomatic animal ambassadors was a carefully curated selection that I was absolutely certain would win over the galaxy. We'd learned from the Zorgax incident, or so I thought. This time we were going more high profile. The Trellian Stellar Consortium was our next unsuspecting recipient, a species known for their love of biodiversity and apparently limitless patience. The initial shipment included what I considered to be some of Earth's most charming representatives: a dozen squirrels, 3 capybaras, 2 ferrets, and a pair of particularly photogenic possums. Cute, right? Harmless. Diplomatic. The first week of reports were actually promising. The Trellians were fascinated. Their lead xenobiologist, Dr. Krell, sent back enthusiastic transmissions about the remarkable adaptability of Earth creatures. The squirrels, in particular, had captured their imagination. Small, furry, seemingly innocent. If only they knew. Week 2 is when things started to get interesting. The squirrels had apparently discovered the Trillian Research Facility's advanced quantum computing systems. Not just discovered, optimized. Somehow, these tiny rodents had rewired the entire communication network to run more efficiently, while simultaneously establishing what could only be described as a sophisticated nut-based economy within the research facility. Dr. Krell's reports became increasingly frantic. The capybaras, initially praised for their social nature, had begun organizing what appeared to be labor unions among the facility's maintenance robots. They would sit in groups, clustered around complex diagrams, seemingly planning something. The robots started displaying what could only be described as worker solidarity. The ferrets were another story entirely. They had found their way into the Trillian defense systems and kept triggering random security protocols. Not maliciously, just because they seemed to find it entertaining. One moment, high-level security lockdowns. The next, complete system reset. All accompanied by what the Trillians described as playful chittering. But the possums. Oh, the possums were something else. They had perfected the art of playing dead so completely that the Trillian research team began to genuinely believe they were studying some sort of quantum state animal simultaneously alive and not alive. They would lie motionless for days, then suddenly spring to life, reorganize entire sections of the research facility, and go back to playing dead. By week 4, Dr. Krell's communications had devolved into a mix of scientific fascination and pure existential terror. The squirrels, one transmission read, have developed what appears to be a complex economic system based entirely on the redistribution of computing resources and acorn equivalent value units. Another gem, the capybaras have unionized our maintenance fleet. They are now demanding better working conditions and something called mandatory water cooler time. The ferrets had become so adept at triggering security systems that the Trillian military was considering them a new form of tactical training unit. Unexpected system breaches? Ferret training exercise. Complete facility lockdown? Just another day in ferret school. And the possums? They had become philosophical icons. The Trillian academic community was now debating the nature of existence based on creatures that could simultaneously be alive, dead, and somehow administrating complex logistical systems. Dr. Krell's final transmission before requesting a temporary pause in the animal exchange program was a masterpiece of scientific breakdown. We thought we were studying animals. We were wrong. These are something else. Adaptive, intelligent, possibly sentient. Definitely not following any known biological or technological rules of engagement. The Trillian Stellar Consortium went from excited scientific partners to deeply concerned diplomatic contacts in less than a month. Their color-coded diplomatic communication charts now included an entirely new category, Earth-Animal Interaction Protocol. Spoiler alert, it was mostly just a blank page with the word "run" written in increasingly large font. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. We were just warming up. Earth had an entire planet full of creatures ready to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy. Raccoons were just the appetizer. These animals were our true ambassadors, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely magnificent. The universe wasn't ready. And honestly, neither were the aliens. Let me tell you about the platypus incident. And yes, it deserves capital letters. It was the diplomatic exchange that would go down in galactic history as the moment when every alien civilization collectively decided that Earth was either the most brilliant or the most insane planet in the universe. The Croxnar Imperium was our target this time. A highly advanced, hyperlogical species of silicon-based life forms who prided themselves on perfect predictability and absolute system control. They lived in massive crystalline cities that were models of geometric precision, with every single aspect of their civilization planned down to the millisecond. Enter Franklin, our platypus ambassador. When I first suggested sending a platypus to the Croxnar, their diplomatic liaison looked like he was experiencing multiple system failures simultaneously. And honestly, that was probably the most normal reaction anyone's ever had to a platypus. "This?" Commander Zex of the Croxnar asked, staring at the digital representation of Franklin. "This is your diplomatic representative?" "Absolutely," I replied with my most winning smile. "Platypuses are nature's ultimate argument against rational design. They're the living embodiment of evolutionary chaos." Franklin looked innocuous enough. A semi-aquatic egg-laying mammal with a duck bill, beaver tail, otter feet, and the ability to produce venom. You know, totally normal. Just your average Earth creature that seems like it was designed by a committee that was simultaneously drunk and trying to win a bet. The Croxnar placed Franklin in a state-of-the-art containment facility, quantum-locked barriers, molecular-level security systems, predictive behavior algorithms, all designed to study and control this tiny creature. They had no idea. Day 1 was deceptively calm. Franklin swam in his habitat, occasionally waddling around, looking like the most harmless creature in the universe. The Croxnar scientists ran countless scans, behavioral analyses, and predictive models. They were certain they understood every possible action this creature might take. Day 3 is when things started to get interesting. Franklin discovered the facility's quantum communication network, not by accident, deliberately, using what can only be described as platypus logic that defied every known principle of rational behavior. First, he short-circuited the quantum relays by generating an electromagnetic field that shouldn't have been possible for a mammal of his size. Then he used the momentary system disruption to access the main computer network. By day 5, Franklin had not only breached the Croxnar's most secure systems, but he had somehow redirected their entire planetary communication grid to broadcast continuous loops of Earth's most ridiculous internet memes. Imagine billions of advanced silicon-based lifeforms suddenly bombarded with cat videos, dad jokes, and TikTok dance challenges. The Croxnar went from a perfectly ordered civilization to complete chaos in less than a week. And their predictive algorithms became useless. Every single model they had developed to understand Franklin's behavior was systematically dismantled and rewritten, not by a team of scientists, but by a single platypus with what appeared to be a vendetta against logical thinking. Franklin didn't just break their systems. He reimagined them. Critical infrastructure began responding to what could only be described as platypus-based logic. Traffic control systems started routing vehicles based on the shortest path that also included the maximum number of water features. Industrial production lines began manufacturing products that served no apparent purpose other than to amuse a semi-aquatic mammal. Commander Zex's emergency transmission to Earth was a masterpiece of bureaucratic breakdown. "Your creature has infected our entire civilization with what can only be described as weaponized absurdity." The truly terrifying part? Franklin seemed to be enjoying himself. He would occasionally look directly into the security cameras with an expression that can only be described as smugly entertained. By day 10, the Croxnar's perfect crystalline cities had been transformed. Geometric precision gave way to bizarre organic structures. Straight lines became curved. Efficiency was replaced by what could generously be called platypus-inspired design principles. Their most advanced quantum computers now ran complex simulations whose only output was variations of duck-billed mammal does a thing. Their communication networks spoke in a hybrid language that was part Croxnar technical jargon and part absolute nonsense. When the Croxnar finally contacted me, their communication was a mix of terror, respect, and what I can only describe as a fundamental questioning of their entire understanding of reality. "How," Commander Zex demanded, "does one small creature possess the capability to completely deconstruct a million-year-old civilization?" I had only one response. "Have you met a platypus?" Franklin, for his part, just continued to swim around his habitat, occasionally producing a sound that I'm pretty sure was platypus laughter. The Croxnar Imperium would never be the same, and frankly, neither would the galaxy's understanding of what a diplomatic exchange could mean. One platypus. 1 week. Absolute, glorious chaos. Just another Tuesday for Earth's animal ambassadors. The Intergalactic Diplomatic Consortium had seen many challenges in its long history. Territorial disputes, resource conflicts, fundamental misunderstandings between species. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for the Earth-animal crisis. I arrived at the emergency session wearing my most professional blazer and a t-shirt underneath featuring a raccoon wearing sunglasses, because diplomacy is about sending a message. The conference chamber looked like a United Nations meeting designed by a child who'd watched too many sci-fi movies. Delegates from dozens of alien species sat in tiered seating, their various physiological responses to stress creating a light show that would make a disco look subdued. Commander Zex of the Croxnar Imperium was the first to speak. His silicon-based form flickered with agitation, producing color patterns that I'm pretty sure translated to several highly advanced curse words in multiple alien languages. "We demand an explanation," he began, his voice a precise blend of technological modulation and pure, unadulterated frustration. "How can a single platypus dismantle an entire planetary infrastructure?" I leaned forward, genuinely confused. "Is that a problem? Franklin is quite talented." The Trellian representative, Dr. Krell, who had previously dealt with our squirrel diplomats, let out a sound that I can only describe as a cross between a wheeze and a sob. "Talented? Talented?" He rewrote our entire technological foundation. "Well, yes," I replied. "That's kind of the point of our animal exchange program." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. Translators worked overtime to convert various species' expressions of outrage into something approaching coherent language. Ambassador Lux from the Quantum Collective, a being composed entirely of interconnected light particles, actually disconnected briefly, which I'm told is the alien equivalent of fainting. "Let me get this straight," I said, standing up and addressing the chamber. "You're upset because our animals are too effective at diplomatic exchange?" Silence fell. The kind of silence that has weight. The kind of silence that suggests entire civilizations are holding their collective breath. Commissar Blix of the Zorgax Confederation, whose skin was now a permanently traumatized shade of bureaucratic gray, spoke up. "Effective? Effective? Your raccoons have turned our computer networks into a collective nut-based economy. Your prairie dogs have created underground tunnel systems that have destabilized 3 research facilities. And now a platypus has fundamentally rewritten the Croxnar's entire technological infrastructure." I beamed. Sounds like successful cultural exchange to me. The truly remarkable thing was that I meant it, completely and utterly sincerely. The Galactic Council had called this emergency session to essentially put Earth on diplomatic probation. They wanted a complete halt to our animal exchange program. They wanted explanations. They wanted guarantees. What they got was me. "Look," I explained, pulling up holographic displays of our most chaotic animal ambassadors. "These aren't just animals. They're living proof of Earth's most fundamental philosophical principle: expect the unexpected." The hologram cycled through images. A raccoon wearing what appeared to be a tiny business suit. A capybara conducting what looked like a labor negotiation with maintenance robots. Franklin the platypus, looking impossibly smug. "Each of these creatures represents a fundamental challenge to rigid thinking," I continued. "The raccoon teaches adaptability. The capybara demonstrates the power of collective organization. The platypus? Pure, unbridled potential." Commander Zex's form glitched. Actual, literal technological glitching caused by pure frustration. "Your potential," he said, each word precisely modulated, "destroyed a million-year-old technological infrastructure." "Improved," I corrected. "Dramatically improved." The Trellian representative, Dr. Krell, raised what passed for a hand in their species. "We have compiled a 7,492-page report detailing the systemic disruptions caused by your so-called diplomatic ambassadors." I nodded enthusiastically. Sounds like a comprehensive cultural exchange. More silence. The kind of silence that has multiple layers of disbelief, horror, and a growing sense that humanity might be either the most brilliant or most insane species in the galaxy. Ambassador Lux reformed, their light particles trembling with what I can only describe as existential confusion. "Do you understand the magnitude of what your animals have done?" I grinned. Absolutely. They've shown your civilizations that true intelligence isn't about rigid systems. It's about adaptability, creativity, the ability to look at a problem and solve it in a way no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council exchanged looks. Looks that said they were simultaneously terrified, impressed, and wondering if they could somehow put an entire planet into diplomatic timeout. We are proposing, Commissar Blick said, his skin now a color that suggested multiple simultaneous emotional breakdowns, a complete and permanent ban on Earth's animal diplomatic exchanges. I leaned back, completely calm. Sure. But consider this, what animal would you like to see next? The silence that followed was legendary. The kind of silence that would be recorded in diplomatic archives for millennia. Earth's animal diplomacy wasn't just a program. It was a philosophy. A chaotic, unpredictable, absolutely magnificent philosophy. And we were just getting started. The final emergency session was held in the Galactic Council's most secure facility. A massive spherical chamber designed to contain potentially universe-altering discussions. They clearly hadn't anticipated me. I arrived with a carry case. A very specific, very important carry case that immediately set every alien species on high alert. Before we discuss banning our animal diplomatic exchange, I announced, I'd like to make a demonstration. Commissar Blix's skin went several shades of warning colors. Commander Zex's silicon form began to vibrate in what I can only describe as preemptive panic. Dr. Krell actually tried to teleport away and failed. I opened the case. Out crawled Gerald, a tardigrade, specifically a water bear, approximately 1 millimeter long and possibly the most resilient creature in Earth's biological catalog. This, I said, placing Gerald carefully on the central diplomatic pedestal, is a tardigrade. Absolute silence fell. The kind of silence that suggests entire civilizations are holding their collective breath. Tardigrades, I continued, can survive in space. They can withstand temperatures from near absolute zero to well above the boiling point of water. Radiation. They laugh at radiation. Pressure that would crush most organisms. Gerald here considers it a gentle massage. Gerald wiggled. I swear he winked. We've been sending you cute animals, I explained. Raccoons, platypuses, capybaras. But this is what Earth can really do. Commander Zex's form began to destabilize. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting, I said with a smile that would make most diplomats nervous, that you haven't seen anything yet. I proceeded to outline Earth's most terrifying wildlife. Not the cute ambassadors. The real survivors. Tardigrades that could survive nuclear holocausts. Cockroaches that could potentially outlive civilization itself. Certain species of jellyfish that were literally biologically immortal. Bacteria that could survive in conditions that would obliterate most known life forms. Your civilizations, I said, have technological infrastructure, impressive systems, quantum computers, advanced molecular engineering. Gerald continued to sit on the pedestal, unmoving, unimpressed. We have life, I continued. Life that adapts, life that survives. Life that doesn't just exist, it persists. The diplomatic chamber went silent. Gerald shifted slightly. One tiny leg moved. Every single alien representative flinched. Our animal exchange program isn't just a diplomatic strategy, I explained. It's a demonstration. A warning. A message. Commander Zex's voice came out as a precise technological whisper. A message of what? Adaptability, I said. Pure, unbridled adaptability. Commissar Blix's skin cycled through colors that suggested multiple existential crises happening simultaneously. You're saying these creatures are, what? Weapons? I'm saying, I corrected, they're ambassadors, living proof that life finds a way, that complexity emerges from the most unexpected places. Gerald continued to sit, unmoving, the most terrifying thing in the room. Dr. Krell, who had previously dealt with our squirrel diplomatic corps, spoke up. "What do you want?" "Respect," I said simply. "Acknowledgement that Earth's approach to diplomacy might be different, might be chaotic, but is fundamentally about life's incredible potential." The tardigrade moved again. Just a millimeter. But in that chamber, it might as well have been a seismic event. "We're not asking to take over," I continued. "We're asking to be understood. These animals, they're not just creatures. They're philosophy in motion. Adaptation personified." Silence fell. The kind of silence that has weight. The kind of silence that suggests entire civilizations are reconsidering everything they thought they knew. Commander Zex was the first to speak. "And if we refuse?" I smiled. Gerald wiggled. "Then you'll keep receiving ambassadors," I said. "Increasingly interesting ambassadors." The implications hung in the air. Thick, unmistakable. Commissar Blix's skin went a color that I'm pretty sure translated to, "Oh God, what now?" Dr. Krell made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Gerald continued to sit. Unmoving. The most terrifying thing in the room. "We propose," I said, "continued cultural exchange, with some minor adjustments to our selection process." "Minor adjustments?" Commander Zex's voice was a precise technological whisper of pure terror. "We'll try to send fewer platypuses," I offered. "Maybe." Gerald wiggled again. And in that moment, every single alien representative knew one thing with absolute certainty. Earth was not going to be stopped. Not by technology. Not by diplomacy. Not by anything. Life would find a way. And Gerald was proof. The final decision came down 3 standard galactic cycles later. 3 cycles of every alien civilization collectively holding its breath, wondering what Earth would do next. The official diplomatic resolution was a masterpiece of bureaucratic compromise. Essentially, Earth could continue its animal exchange program with enhanced monitoring and pre-approval protocols. I laughed so hard I nearly fell out of my chair. Enhanced monitoring with Earth animals was like trying to herd quantum particles using a butterfly net. Pre-approval was adorable. As if we would actually follow those guidelines. The real kicker? They didn't ban the program. They modified it. Which, in Earth diplomatic terms, meant we'd won. Gerald the tardigrade became something of a galactic legend. The tiny creature that had stared down an entire diplomatic consortium and won. Dr. Mactor. Krell later admitted that they had attempted to study Gerald further, only to discover that the tardigrade had somehow managed to modify their research equipment to create what appeared to be a miniature spa environment. Because of course it had. Commissar Blix's final report was a work of art. Thousands of pages of diplomatic language that essentially boiled down to, "We surrender. Please don't send more animals." Commander Zex's civilization began developing entire new branches of technological research dedicated to understanding Earth's biological chaos. Their quantum computers now ran constant simulations trying to predict potential animal-based diplomatic scenarios. The truly magnificent part? They were learning. Our animal ambassadors hadn't just exchanged cultural information. They had fundamentally altered how these civilizations understood adaptation, intelligence, and the pure, unbridled potential of life. Raccoons had taught system optimization. Platypuses had demonstrated the power of unexpected design. Capybaras had shown the importance of collective organization. And Gerald? Gerald had become a universal symbol of pure, unadulterated survival. When the final diplomatic communication arrived, it was addressed not to Earth's government, but directly to me. "We acknowledge," it read, "that your approach to diplomatic exchange is unconventional." I framed the letter. It was the closest thing to a galactic standing ovation we were going to get. The universe thought it understood complexity. It thought it knew adaptation. Then it met Earth's animals. And everything changed. One last thing. Remember Franklin, the the platypus who had completely reorganized the Croxnar Imperium? Last I heard, they'd built him a special research wing with a duck-friendly water feature. Because sometimes diplomacy isn't about following the rules. It's about making the universe adjust to you. Welcome to Earth's approach to interstellar relations. May the galaxy have mercy.